Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the PivotBoss pre-market video for Wednesday, April 13th, 2022. I am Frank Ochoa, aka PivotBoss. Here's a look at the daily time frame of the ES. One thing you'll notice right now is we saw a significant rejection of prices at the previous session's highs. We had that big early rally into the RTH Open, and then we had a tremendous rejection from those highs and dropped back down to the day's lows here. You can see that prices above the yearly composite VWAP were rejected after going off for the day before, and that would all suggest more downside ahead today. As a matter of fact, kind of an upside down check mark trend day could be in play today, whereby morning strength is seen as an opportunity for bears to defend ahead of late day weakness. So we've already seen a pullback to the previous session's midpoint, and that's already been defended. If the high's in for the day, or if it's very close to being in on the day, we could be looking at about a plus 70 to 90 points of downside off of that high. So for example, if we're looking at this high right here being 44.28.5, then we could be looking at a 43.38.5 downside target today at kind of the farthest end of the range. Overall, we've got to see how price plays off of the previous session's midpoint. Failure to get above that point suggests that the bears have control and more downside could be ahead. A failure to hold 4,400 in general or this previous session's midpoint, that could open up again downside part of this range here into 4,200 over the course of the next several days. Let's take a look here at the NQ. The NQ here has seen a close through the previous month's midpoint. Remember, we're in a trading range market, and when that tends to happen, it tends to suggest more downside ahead. You see right here the previous session here, a big time rally to the upside and then a big failure back down, rejecting prices above the previous session's midpoint. Today, a perfect test at the previous session's midpoint. Price got barely above that level and then rejected. And so right now, again, the high of the day could be in, which is basically 14,100. We could be looking at a move of about 430 points of range today if we get a big day. And it could be anywhere between 345 points and 430 points of upside or of downside movement from that upper pivot of the day. So from that 14.1, subtracting 400 points, and that's going to give you a 13.7 target. 13.7 is the bottom of the key range. That's the level we mentioned a couple of days ago likely needs to be hit. Once we had this big day down here, we mentioned any pullback could be an opportunity to go down there and get that 13.7. So we may be already on our way lower to that target from the high of the day, which is basically the previous session's midpoint, right at around that 14.1. All right, let's take a look here at crude oil. Now here's crude oil. One of the things we mentioned the previous session, well actually 2 sessions ago, was the rejection of the previous week's low price. The previous week's low is basically right there. Price got just below it and just below the previous month's low at the same time, and we saw the rejection develop off that area, which led us to believe that a return to the previous week's close would be in play. That's a 97.95 target, followed by a push to the previous week's midpoint, 99.70. We got all of that over the course of the previous day, and on that tremendous move here, we now have a hold here and a continuation through the previous week's midpoint of 99.70 and are now trading 102.20s with an upside target that could be in play at the previous week's high of 105.50s. So 105s could be ahead, 105.50 up ahead as the previous week's high. We talked before any rejection down here of 95.96 would open up a retest of 105.106, and right now continues to play out in that fashion. You can also see right here, narrow range here, and then we got the upside break. If today ends up being a digestive day, tomorrow could be a failed new low with an upside continuation into 105s. All right, let's take a look here at Bitcoin. Bitcoin here still trying to find a strong low, still auctioning lower. Again, gave up the previous month's midpoint, which suggests a test at the previous month's low. One thing to keep in mind is, again, we have all of this range here that's been in play over the last year plus. But really, we're just kind of playing with the range that's here so far year to date. Year to date, we've been in this range right here. There's been few times where we've traded here below the FOMC key level from January of this year, which is 37,975. Prices below that area have been defended and rejected so far. So the lower edge of this trading range could be in play again for another rotation that could take us back up to 46, maybe even 50 this time before it fails again. So right now, again, we've been in a very, very good trading range at the moment. We have seen a significant turnaround from the highs, and we are almost in that lower quadrant there of that range, which could provide the next significant rejection opportunity and short-term fade back up. All right, taking a look here at Ether futures here. Very similar price action. This one has rejected the highs here recently. A rejection of the previous month's high and a rotation back to the previous month's midpoint. As we noted before, a failure at the midpoint would open up the previous month's low. And in this zone here, 2,500 or better, that zone right there provides, again, another opportunity to look for significant rejection and to fade it back up on a short-term basis. Perhaps back to 3,400 easy. Maybe this time to the previous year's close, but the next washout phase could provide the next bounce opportunity to bring us back up. So right now, kind of a rest after battle phase here, big down day, 2 rest days here. We could be looking at a failure of the previous month's midpoint here pretty soon, which could give us some sort of continuation down in the near term. All right, that is it for now. We'll see how this plays out heading into the rest of the day. Good luck, trade well, and I'll see you in the trading room. Take care.